Hi, my name is Beth Walsh-Morman, and today I'm going to offer you a video abstract of our manuscript, Guiding Their Thinking, a Formative Study of Digital Source Evaluation. This was a study that I conducted with Christine E. Pytash, who's an associate professor in the Teaching, Learning, and Curriculum Studies at Kent State University, and I am an assistant professor of literacy at Lake Erie College. Christy and I became interested in this topic as we became familiar with the work of the Stanford History Education Group, specifically their work on students' civic online reasoning. And what became clear to us is that many of the teaching practices around source evaluation were not robust enough to prepare our students for the kinds of information that they would receive digitally, especially through social media apps. Specifically, Christy and I were interested in looking at lateral reading, which is a technique that SHEG identifies and which asks students to conduct independent research in order to verify information and vet sources, vet the authors and authoring organizations, much like a fact checker does for a newspaper or an online magazine. So Christy and I created a number of studies where we embedded lateral reading into the research instruction that was already happening in middle school and high school classrooms. We worked with classroom teachers to identify what specifically we could teach our students to do when we asked them to laterally read, and we offered scaffolds to help guide their thinking as they conducted those lateral reading moves. But what we found was that while our students were more skeptical, they were willing to give the side eye to their sources, they also were held back by limited web searching skills and by limited background knowledge. So we decided to look at the instruction and to really identify what practices would be critical to helping our students. We designed research questions that were looking at how we can support students to think more complexly as they were conducting lateral reading. We used the SHEG study to create a rubric and then asked our students to do an independent screencast before any instruction that was embedded in a writing task that was already happening in the classroom. We identified the gaps. We used what we found there to create interventions specifically designed to address the gaps that the initial screencast found in their ability to be effective in their lateral reading. We then had the students, after instruction, create another screencast where we then looked for and identified growth. In our paper, we'll talk about some of the key takeaways that we had, including what was important as far as what tools and strategies we found important to model. We'll talk specifically about how we were able to have our students consider context as it related to the purpose and the topic. And then we looked at how we can have our students think of this as real-time decision-making, a framework for decision-making rather than a checklist or a task that is finite, helping our students decide when they have enough information to be able to successfully conduct a lateral reading move.